Men have read it. What's something women don't realize is sexual harassment? Story 1. I was working at a birthday party in a bar once, and a drunk 40-year-old woman decided to just walk behind the counter and slip a banknote into my shirt. She then started to rub around my chest like some sort of massage. I guess it was really weird as I just stood there, confused, waiting for it to end. Her husband was watching the whole time and didn't seem to be too happy about the whole thing. But nobody seemed to care, or they just laughed about it. If I was a 40-year-old man and had done that to a 17-year-old girl working at a bar, I would have gotten one hell of a lawsuit. Story 2. I had a weird interaction at my last job. I was the only male manager in the company and one of the youngest. During a weekly call with the other 18 managers, one of the women noticed I'd shaved since I had my camera on and pointed it out, to which I suddenly had a gaggle of women talking about how young and handsome I looked. And I legit had a 55-year-old woman tell me that I was the type of guy she would have been all over when she was my age, but maybe she can settle for me meeting her daughter. I'm married, and they all know this. Then I had another woman tell me she would have to update her drawing now, and proceeded to hold up a pencil drawing of my head with a heart around it. Needless to say, I never turned my camera on again, but still got the odd, "Oh, he must be shy," or "we embarrassed him," followed by laughter. Story 3. Some women once tried to take off some of my clothes in a club without me showing interest in any of them at all. When I told them to F off after a while, they got angry at me. I've never been so confused. They talked to one of the guards at the club right after. I don't know what they said, but as they talked to him, they pointed at me. Maybe they said I was the bad guy or something. When I saw that, I just left. I figured the guard would just trust the two girls more than me. The club was boring anyways. Imagine some guys in the club trying to take off a random woman's clothes. Double standard is disgusting. Story 4. Every wedding and funeral I've ever been to has a Scotsman there. There's always a gaggle of horny grannies who at every opportunity tried to get a look under the kilt. For those of you who are kilted and experience the same, have you also had the one who approaches you saying, "If I can manage to get a fiver in the sporran, I am legally allowed to look," with a maniacal grin, or was that just because I was down in Sussex at the time? Story 5. I've been into weightlifting most of my adult life, and as a result, my arms and chest are noticeable. I'm not like a bodybuilder or anything, but I've got big arms and a protruding chest. Women think that they could just grab on my arms and rub my chest without permission or warning. I think they think it's okay because they compliment me afterwards. It makes me uncomfortable, and my fiancé never really took me seriously until at a work party, one of my female coworkers basically dropped my arms in front of her. It made her jealous. She gets it now. Story 6. An old coworker of mine, he was male and was sexually harassed by one of our directors. He told me and was like, "Well, it's whatever. She's hot, but I wish she'd stop asking for sex and touching my hair and grabbing my butt." A few years down the line, and he and I, who are both department directors now and are at other facilities. The industry we were in was quite niche, and basically, word gets around because everybody knows everybody in the area. I sit down for a meeting with one of the hiring directors, and she said, "We were thinking of hiring a harassing director for the open position, and I know you worked with her." I was honest and said she was great at her job, very highly qualified, family loves her, and staff loved her for the most part, but she sadly harassed my coworker over 2 years and she didn't get hired. I was really glad the truth came out in that situation. Very nerve-wracking, but that was the actual reason she didn't get hired. She was in the final running, and I hope the trend continues. There should be no double standard when it comes to these things. Story 7. My partner was at a truck stop waiting for his food when some lady came up and grabbed his junk. She just walked up and shoved her hand down his pants. He pushed her off and said he was taken and told her to F off. She reached for him again and said, "Well, she isn't here now, is she?" It disgusts me that people are like this regardless of gender. It's even worse that women aren't held as accountable as men are. Story 8. My partner went to a job interview and the older woman kept touching him as they talked, like on his arm or hand. I told him that's not okay and he doesn't have to take that. He said that he doesn't want to make a scene because she might accuse him of harassment and retaliation, and she had his information. I realize men put up with harassment out of fear too. Different reasons, but sucks for both genders. Story 9. The all-women management team purposely gave the male staff uniforms that were a size too small so they could oogle asses. The button on my pants snapped off after my third shift because my pants were so tight and they wouldn't give me a replacement for 3 months. I was 16. Story 10. Touching me or flirting with me after I've said no, or words to that effect. When I was younger, I was with a group of people and was wearing jeans with a hole in the seat. Some chick took that as an invitation to jam a couple of fingers up my ass. Women in the group thought it was funny, except for one. Also, servers brushing their breasts on my arm or shoulder makes me uncomfortable and doesn't lead to increased tips. Story 11. I had a drunk young lady rip my button-up shirt off in a bar on the dance floor and then proceed to cup my D and balls. I was pissed, so I told her and her friends to F off after I got my shirt back from them, which had all the buttons torn off except the bottom two. That was super annoying, but I was going to just deal with it until I was asked to leave by the bouncers for yelling at a woman and not buttoning up my shirt. Another group of women approached me and said that they had the whole thing on video, which I then sent to the bar's management and got a $200 gift certificate for it. In hindsight, I probably should have just taken it to the police. I never felt anger or scared for my safety, but it was inappropriate, and if I did that, I'd be in jail. Story 12. I work security at a wedding reception. Drunk women feeling empowered and sexual and completely secure about their untouchability when abusing staff. Not all women are so vile, but security deals with every one of them who decides to violate someone. We get to deal with complaints from the catering and service staff, and we get harassed ourselves. I've been groped and propositioned both covertly and overtly. My favorite was this drunk 40-something lady who could barely stand up trying to get to the entrance while being supported by the guy she was with. No idea what their actual relationship was. She openly oogled me and then suggested I follow them back to the hotel across the street for a threesome. The guy supporting her, also drunk but not nearly as bad, was apologizing and looking worried the whole time. Not sure what he was worried about. This proposition? The idea of another guy? The blatant and overt harassment of venue staff? The fact that it was security being harassed? Or that his companion seemed intent on face-planting on every other step because she was still wearing 4-inch heels? I felt for him, if only because he was probably about to get puked on as soon as they got into their Uber. It was part of the job, and I don't miss working weddings. Story 13. A lot of women are either oblivious or brazen into harassment. One coworker invited me to fly to Las Vegas to attend a wedding with her. When I said my wife would likely have a problem with that, she said we could just tell her it was for work. Then came the kicker. She said, "I'm on birth control, so whoever comes with me can come in me all they want." She was actually pretty pissed that I laughed in her face. A second coworker had lost a lot of weight after having her second child. She was feeling good about herself, and I congratulated her, probably saying something like, "Yeah, you look great." She took this as a cue and, for the rest of the day, brought up how she needed a victory lap, namely cheating on her husband with me in a hotel room. Again, she was livid at being turned down. Women think they could do whatever they want when they're alone. As a guy, it's part funny and part sad when they sit on your lap without asking. Although, this is just a symptom of a bigger problem. At least I am regularly faced with the assumption that men are always horny and always want sex. Sadly, an assumption people of all genders seem to make, for people thinking this way of invading your personal space, touching, making comments, etc., is not harassment, as they just assume you want that to happen. Now, if you make your boundaries clear and say no to them, you somehow are the bad guy again. Now, of course, this problem is not limited to women, but to me, it seems to be a general problem in interpersonal relationships.